Hi, have you heard of the term financially independent retire early, or FIRE in short as they call it? It's a concept that's become really famous in the recent past, and it's a very good concept. What it says is that you need to collect enough money so that it's enough for you to be financially independent and retire, right? Well, the idea is that you take that money and you invest it into something like stocks, mutual funds, real estate, whatever. You invest it into something and you earn some interest out of that investment. And that interest is enough for you to manage your monthly, yearly expenses. And because of that, you actually can retire early. Now that's great. That's an amazing concept, by the way. And many people are trying to get there. If you have some amount of investment, the idea is that you only take 4% of that. All right. It's a safe percent to take because whatever investment you're making, let's say you put it in a mutual fund or the stock market, you could potentially make 10 to 12% of return every year on that. And you're just taking 4%. Your corpus remains the same. In fact, it starts to go up because you've not touched the corpus and you've not even taken the entire amount of interest that you've earned from there, right? So that's great. So that's what FIRE is. That's as easy as it can get. Get to a number where then you will be living off of the interest of your investment. That's great. Now, what is that number, right? How do you calculate that? So I've made it very simple instead of going through all the math. Here's a simple thing to look at. If your expenses are 1 lakh per month, all right, 1 lakh per month, then you need a corpus of 3 crores in order to earn that 1 lakh just through interest every month. It's as simple as that. Now, your situation may be different because you may not need 1 lakh, you probably need 50,000, which means that your corpus needs to be half, which is 1.5 crores. You may be on the other side where you need 2 lakhs a month, in which case your corpus needs to be twice, which is 6 crores. As simple as that. 1 lakh per month needs a corpus of 3 crores. Okay, so how do you get there? And how long will it take for you to make that corpus? Okay, so let's look at that example a little deeper. So assuming that your expenses are 1 lakh per month, let's assume that you actually make twice as much. So your income is actually 2 lakhs per month, which means that you can spare 1 lakh for investing and building your corpus. Now, I know that most of us may not be in a situation where we're earning twice as much as our monthly expense. In most cases, we're spending way more than half of what we earn. In many cases, we probably end up spending everything and maybe take additional debt or loans on top to manage our expenses. So I know situations can be very different. And if that's the case for you, then the amount of time that I'm going to say, it will actually take you more to get to that corpus. Okay? But let's stick to this example now. So let's say you're earning 2 lakhs per month and your expenses are 1 lakh, which means you have 1 lakh to spare to invest in building your corpus. Okay, so let's start an SIP then. So you start an SIP in which you're putting in 1 lakh every month. And let's say you get a standard rate of return, which is let's say 12% per year. That's an average that you get if you put it in an SIP. So over a period of time, you then start to build towards that corpus of 3 crores. 1 lakh per month at 12% yearly returns, it will take you 12 years to build a corpus of 3 crores. That's it. It's as simple as that. Simple math. 1 lakh per month, 12% rate over 12 years will get you 3 crores. And that means in 12 years, you can then be financially independent and retire early. Not quite. Actually, not true. There is a lot of things that we have missed out in that calculation, right? And I wanted to talk about these things because a lot of times we see a lot of advice around SIPs, investment, mutual funds, and there's a lot of focus in terms of the percentage of interest you can earn, how you can invest or where you can invest, how much money you can make. Not a lot of stress put on the fact the amount of time that it's going to take for you to get there. So let's look at this time factor. Coming back to our example, it took us 12 years to get to that corpus of 3 crores. And that's great, which means now with that, you can earn just through interest 1 lakh per month, right? But come on, it's 12 years from now. And if your expenses are 1 lakh per month now, obviously it's not going to be the same in 12 years. So let's assume that your expenses are also going to go up. Now, depending on your situation, you could be going from a 1 lakh to, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs. Really depends on where you're at, how much more, work you've got left, how many more years you've got to retire, so on and so forth. But let's assume that you went from a 1 lakh per month expense to, let's say, thrice as much, so 3 lakhs per month expense in 12 years. So what that means is then your expenses are not going to be covered just by the corpus that you've now spent time and effort building. Your expenses are 3 lakhs per month. So how much corpus do you actually need? Going back to the example that I gave at the start, for every lakh you need 3 crores, which means for 3 lakhs you need 9 crores. So if we decide this now to become financially independent and retire early, it looks like you're 3 crores away, and that's a huge number in itself, by the way. But we put a math to it and we know that mathematically, it's possible. So it looks like you're 3 crores away from being financially independent and retiring early. And then in 12 years, you make 3 crores and realize what? That now you are 6 crores away from being financially independent and retiring early. So that's the time factor. And it plays a huge role in all our financial decisions. That's something that's not stressed enough in all the finance videos and the finance education that we've been taught. Now, FIRE in itself is a very good concept. It's not something that we learned growing up in school. It's not something that was taught to us in our homes. None of us knew this concept until very recently, right? So it's a great concept. But how are you going to use it to your advantage and not get carried away by some mathematics that tells you you're going to make crores and then going to retire early? There's a lot more to it than just that. So the key takeaway from here is that it's going to take a while. It's going to take some time and effort, and the time factor is important to note. The other takeaway from here is that your FIRE number also will change over time. So if your FIRE number is 3 crores today in the example we discussed, in 12 years, your FIRE number has now changed to 9 crores, right? So that's another important thing to take note of, that your FIRE number will change over time. Now people ask that question, right? Hey, do you know your FIRE number? Do you know how much you need to retire today? It's a good to know number, and even if you don't, that's fine. But remember that that's not going to stay constant. It is going to change over time. So those two key takeaways from this example is what I want to give you in this video. But there are other people that argue, that hey, if it's going to take you 12 years because your expenses are 1 lakh, why don't you cut down on those expenses? And maybe then it'll help you get to your 3 crore corpus faster. Again, mathematically, that's absolutely right. Practically though, how practical is it? How much do you want to sacrifice, right? If you're a 20-year-old, you need to do what 20-year-olds do. If you're a 30-year-old, you need to do what normal 30-year-old people do. You cannot be sitting and sacrificing everything in your youth in order for a better tomorrow, in order for a good retired life. Think of it. How many times have you walked into a nightclub or a pub and have seen a bunch of 70-year-olds, lighting up the dance floor because they sacrificed in their youth, earned some money, didn't go partying and whatnot, and now they're 70, they've got their corpus, they're rich, and now they want to live it large, right? That's not going to happen. If you are a 70-year-old and you can still light up the dance floor, then more power to you, right? But practically, you don't see that very often. So yes, it's a good idea to live below your means, be frugal about your spending, but not sacrifice everything. Not sacrifice some of the experiences that you need to have as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old, and going into your middle age and old age and retirement, right? So that's an important concept as well. So then, how do you get rich? How do you become financially independent? Now, the one thing that I've learned is that about the only way for you to do that is to make sure that you increase your earning potential. That's the only sure shot way for you to get there, right? It just takes you about 5 to 10 years once you've figured out your niche. You just need to figure out what you're really good at. It may take some time for you to get there, to understand what you're really good at, what you really like, but then get really, really good at it. It could be your day-to-day, normal 9 to 5 job. It could be a business. You could freelance. It really depends on what you want. But find out what you're really, really good at and find a way to make money from that. A lot of money, and make that really, really fast. 3 crores is a lot of money, but so is 12 years. 12 years is a long time, right? You need to make 3 crores to be financially independent. You need to figure out how to make that faster. So, increase your earning potential, and that's about the only way that you could become financially independent. Will investing help? Maybe, maybe not. There are some misconceptions about investment, and I've made a video on that, so I'll put the link in the description. Go see and have a look at the video. But investing may or may not necessarily get you rich. You could get lucky, but what are the chances, right? So it's good to have investment, but if you want to be financially independent, you've got to do a lot more than that. And the best way to do that is to increase your earning potential. Find 5 to 10 years of complete focus, get to that position, and then you can be financially independent. So I make videos on personal growth and personal finance. So if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. And see you in the next video.